My name is JeffBranch. I grew up in Louisiana. Most of my childhood education was in a mainstream school. There was no interpreter. There weren't a lot of interpreters available at that time. I was 1976 in that area. There was no interpreters available for me, so I was reading lips. Or I was using materials that were available right in front of me to read them. There was a lot of reading on my own, and my mother helped me. My parents divorced, and I moved with my mother. My mother lived in New Orleans, and my dad lived 3 hours away. There was one oral school available. It was and I went there for 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. I wasn't happy there. It was an oral approach, you can't sign, it wasn't allowed. That was a little bit frustrating for me. And I did get through it okay. And I communicated all right. So that was a little bit better. So I can't really complain. When 8th grade finished, my parents were like, what am I going to do next? She found out through friends that a friend's children went to MSSD in Washington, D.C. So I was, whoa, Washington, D.C. is really, really far. My parents didn't like the idea of that, kind of being out of touch. But they decided that MSSD would be the best place for me. And then later, they thought I would go to Gallaudet. So they thought I had to learn how to sign if I was going to be going to MSSD. So I learned how to sign a little bit through a summer camp, but not much. Honestly, was I brave to go to MSSD? Not really. I was kind of scared. High school was awkward, but we decided to go ahead to MSSD. If I didn't like it for 1 year, that was fine. I could go back home. But that day that I stepped onto campus at MSSD, I just fell in love, got completely immersed in it. I got a lot of straight communication where that hadn't happened before. I didn't get the full information before, or the information went sort of through an interpreter, but at MSSD, it was a wonderful place for straight communication, small group discussion. I just really never experienced that kind of communication before, and I really missed out on that while growing up. That really helped a lot for me to go there. I learned so much of the things that I had been missing out from before. It's really a rich experience for me. It built my self-esteem, got a lot of confidence in myself by going there. So I graduated from MSSD, and then I went right to Gallaudet. I was more independent, had more responsibilities. And I met you, my senior year, really senior twice. I was minoring in one area, but I was still a senior. I was thinking, I can't leave Gallaudet. but I know that it was time to change and leave and rejoin reality. So sometimes I was afraid to go out in the real world, but I decided just move on. So I met you, and then like 2 years later, in the summer, I think it was a year and a half, right? A year and a half later, around Christmas time, I graduated. I went back in May to graduate. I was working as a CD. Wait, let me back up a second. I had an internship with CD. They offered me a job, and I hadn't finished school yet. And they were like, all right, go back to school, finish your degree, get your degree, and then come work here. So that fall semester, I started working in January at CD, full-time through. So that I went back to Washington, D.C. to graduate with my class. And I've been working at CD for 5 years now.